Awesome. Awesome. Hi, everyone on YouTube, and also welcome to all the students who are joining in on this call. Uh, the whole idea of this lesson or this workshop is for me to try and answer a few questions posed by all of the guys in this classroom. And by the looks of it, everyone seem to be very different musicians. Some are beginners, some are professionals, some are into electronic music, some are into various kinds of music. So it should be a lot of fun to get everyone's opinions and questions, and I will try my best and answer it, and let's see how it goes. And you also in the audience can also chime in with comments. We are staring at the comments as well, so do send them across. Awesome. Great that you guys can hear everything. Great. So how it works is we'll ask people in the classroom for their questions, and this can be any topics in the field of music, whether it's theory, reading, notation, ear training, or whatever it may be. So let's see what questions we have, and if I'm not able to answer some of it, maybe some of you guys itself can. That'll be fun. Okay, so let's get started. I'm just going to call out someone from the class. Jaskaran, could you ask us your first question? Hi, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Jason. So my question, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Perfect. So my question is regarding creating compositions.
Yeah.
So when I start composing and finally I create a song that I'm happy with, what
Yeah.
happens after 15 minutes or some time, I realize that, okay, this song sounds like that particular song in
Okay.
another song. Maybe that happens in 15 minutes, or maybe that happens after 1 day or 2 days. So
Right.
sometimes I feel that, okay, the whole thing didn't go through, it was kind of a waste. So my
Right.
question to you is, what's your approach? What's your approach for creating original songs and melodies, and how to not create a song that sounds like another song?
Sure. Great question. Thanks. So the first thing I'd like to start by saying is, there are every band or every artist at the end of the day has to be inspired by other artists, right? We all are. So if you take, let's say, a song like Viva La Vida by Coldplay, that is clearly a Joe Satriani song, which they have clearly admitted. They have sort of actually told Joe Sat and probably paid him some money to kind of I don't know what you officially call it, but you get the idea, right? So a lot of artists don't steal intentionally, but because of what we listen to over years of experience, it sort of happens to be so that we tend to sound like someone else. So my suggestion immediately with I have a few suggestions for this question. I don't know how many I can answer in this sort of a short class, but the first thing I will say is just listen to more music. Like if you're writing music in, let's say, a folk genre or in a rock genre or in a blues genre, try to listen to music which is not that genre. And what I found is whatever I listen to as a normal lover of music is never what I play or compose or jam with my bandmates. For example, I listen to a lot of heavy metal. I listen to a lot of Western classical music, but I can't play any of that on the piano because heavy metal is damn tough to play on the keyboard. Sounds a bit too happy sometimes, doesn't have that distortion guitar vibe. But I love heavy metal. I love heavy metal, death metal, prog metal, any genre with the word metal in it. For some reason I like it, but I don't play that stuff, and it's the same the reverse way. I don't listen to a lot of folk music or a lot of Irish music or Celtic music, but I for some reason I've ended up playing that in my music. So that's one tip. I would say listen to as many things as possible with an open mind. Uh, then another thing to do is to not really judge yourself in the process of making music. Always try to make music with an honest frame of mind. Your mindset has to be something like a process. Your aim is not to the result. Your aim is always the process. Like the making a song should always be about the process. And if you do end up making a song during the process, well and good, you know. So that's how I look at it sometimes in a simpler perspective. And another thing you might want to try is to make a list of all the ways in which you can compose music. For all you know, the current way which you're using is sort of tried and tested by your own brain. So your brain is sort of used to that style of writing. So maybe if you're a guitar player, maybe you should try composing on an instrument which you suck at, like the piano, you know, maybe, or vice versa. If you're a keyboard player, try to compose on the guitar, or try to compose using music production softwares, maybe using loops, maybe using other such, technologies like that. Yeah, so try to compose music in different ways. I mean, even if you just put a metronome on your phone and just see what happens, you will be very, very surprised that you can make some incredible music with just the metronome. Just having the metronome running, you can actually create a lot of stuff. And another great songwriting prison, as I call it, is to write music with someone else. So if you have a friend or a fellow musician around you, or if you can nowadays with the lockdown, you can try and collaborate via Zoom or something like that. That's another great way to compose, because you're sort of pushed. You all both have a common goal. So you all are driven. Maybe one friend could write the lyrics. I do that a lot. I have friends who write lyrics and melody lines, and I handle the arrangement and the songwriting or the composition of the chords and the rhythm and the groove and whatnot, right? And the last thing I will say with songwriting is you need to just keep trying. The bigger problem is to write crappy songs. The bigger problem is not to copy people. So as long as you're writing good music, yeah, just keep trying. And maybe you can follow that one tip. If you want to take one thing from this question, don't listen to what you end up trying to write with. So if you listen to a lot of Coke Studio stuff or Bollywood music, fair enough, but then you should not expect to write like that. Or then your writing style ultimately comes from you. Like, it's your own personal way of writing music. So you need to kind of take that into consideration. Okay. So we'll come to another question then. Thanks for your question. We'll ask Arvind. Are you here? Hi.
Yeah. Hi.
Can you turn on your video?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Hi, Jason.
Hi.
Yeah, my question is how to improve your sight reading skills. And when it comes for band scene,
Yeah.
how should we have that lead sheet kind of thing for our Indian music? Is there any other way that you can implement, whole band in one sheet
Okay. So your can you repeat your
songs?
question? Sight reading, is it?
Yeah, sight reading. Yeah,
So you want how a question on is how to improve sight reading.
exactly. That's the first question of mine.
Then you talked about what is your Indian music question?
Is that possible to write Indian melodies on sheets?
Okay. So let me just share my screen with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So usually staff notation revolves around the major and the minor keys. So you're pretty much going to only be able to notate these scales. Or else you have to be like, I'm going to notate no key. In other words, there's no notation as such. Now, if you look at notation's requirement is to notate pitch, rhythm, and dynamics. If you think about it, pitch is like your y-axis, rhythm is like your x-axis, and dynamics is like your z-axis, right? So these are the controllable things for a musician in general. So staff notation can do all of this, and more. It's a really powerful tool. But when you're referring to what they call as a key signature, then it will have to be only major and minor. Okay, so if you're representing an Indian rag, let's say you take this scale. It's a very common Hindustani scale, right? So I guess the first scale you guys learn when you learn Hindustani music. So now this scale, the way you notate it, if you had to do any key center, this would really fail. So then I would probably go no key, or if I was notating this on C, the normal C major would be what? C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? While this particular rag or this particular scale needs to have a D flat, needs to have an A flat, and that's about it. So I would recommend, if you're notating something other than major and minor, you just put it in your treble clef or your bass clef. As we know in notation, you have both these clefs, right? Treble clef and your bass clef. It's just that you don't write your key signature. Like normally we'll write like this. So this would be two sharps, namely D major or else known as B minor. But if you're writing like Indian music or music which is not compliant with major and minor, you can just go ahead and write your notes, just write down the notes. The note values remain the same. In fact, a very important thing with notation is note rhythms, isn't it? Rhythm is something which is consistent across planet Earth. So rhythm will for sure be notatable, whichever genre you do. So coming back to your first question, how to improve sight reading, I think what you should first start off with is the x-axis. Start working on your rhythm phrases. Rhythm phrases will really help you. Like for example, if I have a number sequence like this on the screen for you, just 1, 2, 3, 4. Now 1, 2, 3, 4 could mean a lot of things. 1 could mean no division of the beat. 2 could be dividing the beat by 2. So now I have 2 quavers, as we call it, or 2 eighth notes. 3 would mean an eighth note triplet, or dividing by 3. 4 would mean a semi-quaver, or dividing by 4. So in Carnatic music, for example, they could call this as tha, tak, takit, tak dhimi, tha, tak, takit, tak dhimi, ta. So since I guess you've asked this question as an Indian musician, if you know crude counting styles like these, why not just figure out what this is equivalent to? So this will be tha, tak, takit, tak dhimi, ta, tak, or 1, 2 and 3 and a 4 and a 1, and so on and so forth, right? So if I have to build a melody, right? So once you figure out your rhythm values of all your notes, you can start learning rests, where this would be tat ta da da ta da da ta da da ta da da ta da da. So now let's say I like this rhythm and I want to do tat ta da da ta da da ta da da ta 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 da da ta da da ta da da pum pum para bum pum, right? So how do I notate that? I need 3 of my gallops. So another way in which I would suggest you to learn notation, even though it's not very textbook, is you create the notation yourself rather than read a book, or go watch a YouTube video. These concepts are not too difficult. So you make that. You see what I just sang. I hope this is pretty much what I just randomly sung, right? Dunk tada dunk tada dunk tada dum pum. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. There we go. It pretty much aligns, but it looks weird, right? But I mean, that's the way it is. It's a universal language. So if you're practicing notation, in my opinion, rhythm always comes first, right? And melody usually can be triangulated just with your ear. The ear is more than sufficient to figure out the melody line. You can hear, and especially as Indian musicians, we tend to be all about the ear, so the ear always will hit us first, whether we like it or not. So why do we want to kid ourselves? So chords is the other department of music, or harmony. I would say learn chords in 2020 or in the modern age just with chord symbols. Learn what this symbol means. Okay, this is a C minor major 7th chord symbol. So that's 2. If I give you C, do 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 do. So you see, this means a lot to me. This data means a lot to me, and I would prefer to read it like that than maybe this way. I don't know. To me, this just doesn't inspire me as much as this, So with notation, you also have to realize that we are in year number 2020. So a lot has changed. So that's another suggestion I would have with notation. Try to serve the modern era. Okay. And another great way to practice notation, I guess, would be to use an app. I've said this before to other students. You can use this app called MuseScore, which is free. You guys could download it probably right now. You can go to musescore.org. We'll try and type it out on the chat. But yeah, try and get that app, and you can do all this stuff. And you can even hear it back for you. Instead of hearing a teacher like me sing it back, you can yourself hear it and play around. So the bottom line is, use notation to make music, and then you will get better at notation. It's as simple as that. Okay, so I hope that answered your question to some level. Thanks. We'll move on to the...
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll move on to the next person. Abhiram, hi. Are you there?
Hi. Yes. Good evening, sir. Good. Thanks for organizing this program. One question that always bothers me is about how to get better at playing on time, how to learn to play on time.
Right.
And are there any exercises to get better at, or there are any tricks? Yeah, it will really help if you can help me understand this.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it boils down to a lot of simple stuff. So see, if I take an instrument like the guitar, which I'm honestly very poor at, but if I try playing something on the guitar, if I try to just, embellish some chords and play. So, I mean, pretty much any guitar player can probably play that. But what you should focus on to get better at timing, and assuming you're not a very experienced musician, you're sort of new, you should probably use some body movements, like just move your head while you play. And it's just that, which is why, even a guy like me, who's like sort of a very average guitar player, I can sort of jam with you people, or I can at least promote one of you to sing along with me, because I have some basic sense of timing. So that can be developed, believe it or not, by just moving your body. So just start by moving your head to the music. And when you move your head, try to move it to the pulse. That's very important. You don't want to headbang like a heavy metal dude and go like really fast. You just want to move it like how the audience would move it. So first, wear the shoes of the audience. See what you intend them to do. Whether you want them to sway this way, whether you want them to nod their head, whatever movement you want the audience to do, you should be able to do yourself. So perhaps one step would be to play the guitar or whatever you play and just move your body, any rhythm. And then you can build it. If you sing, try to hum something along with this. You see, I'm holding that rhythm. So this adds another level of independence. So I'm enjoying it like an audience member. I'm also developed a good sense of independence. I'm doing something else apart from my primary instrument, in this case singing. So as a kid playing music in a band, I would always like singing harmony in the band, and till to this day it's something I enjoy the most, which is why whenever I'm playing in a band I have to ensure that there's vocal harmony, otherwise I will not play, because I started as a cappella and a choir person, and band happened only, I think, properly during engineering. So it took a long time to actually play rock music with drummers and bass players. So I was always into singing and harmony and all that stuff. So what I learned with singing is, whenever I could sing and play the piano, I get a lot more confidence with the piano itself. And by being a harmony singer, you're never in the limelight. So a guy like me is always scared of that, growing up especially. So I was very happy to sing the harmony parts. And a lot of Western songs have harmony in any case. Or even if you take Bollywood songs or Tamil songs, there's always a scope for harmony, even if the original doesn't have it. So that's another thing I would advise you to do. Try to do something else or work towards the bigger picture. And another thing to improve your timing in a very generic sense is, when you're listening to a song, listen to a song like the audience. Like, don't listen to the song like a musician. Don't analyze. First hear it like how an audience member would. Listen to the song 3 or 4 times, fall in love with the song, and then things start coming to you. Then your tactical brain or your musical brain, all of those things will start coming back into play, so to speak. Okay, so yeah, these are some general ways to improve time, and better ways. If you want to get more technical, yeah, similar things as what I told Arvind with the rhythm discussion. Try to focus on reading, and uh, try to improvise a bit more. That will also help. With whatever exercise anyone gives you, try to change it a little bit. And also play with others. Playing with other musicians makes you very accountable. Like, for example, in a lockdown scenario like this, we could pair up maybe 4 members. 4 members could just collaborate online. One guy who's the best at timing starts off, plays some chords, while then everyone somehow follow. And now for a person like Abhiram, you're sort of sucked into this jam session. You have to play with the guitar player. You can't leave him. You yourself will know, man, it just doesn't sound good. I have to improve. So that's another thing which helps musicians who grow up around other musicians. One advantage is we are always yelled at by them. We are always pushed into saying, man, that sucks, or I'm kicking you out of my band, or you have to sing in the back row, or you have to not sing, just wear the costume and mumble your words or whatever. I mean, these are different scenarios, but you get the idea, right? So that's another way to stay in time. So another good thing is, I mean, for me, I always started music as a youngster, like all of us do, but I ended up playing with a lot of older people, not only older by age, older also by experience. So in a way, those people sort of mentored me, which is why I never actually went formally to a school as such to learn, because all these musicians around me were doing everything for me. Of course, it was tough. They were a bit strict, but as long as you enjoy what you're doing, it's fine, I guess. Right? Okay, we will move. Thank you. Bobbin, are you there? We'll move into your question. Oh, Bobbin's not there. Sanjit, if we can have your question.
Yes, hi, Jason.
Hi.
Yes. So my question is more on the production side of things. I've been trying to make music using FL Studio. So
Oh, okay.
I've been trying to mix vocals. So a problem I'm facing is that I am I have frequencies competing with each other. So the bass in my voice is so my voice doesn't cut through the mix properly, and I have different instrument competing with each other. So how do I make sure that the frequencies are left to themselves, and it doesn't how do you say it has a good overall sound?
Sure. Yeah. Nice question. So what you're saying is you have a vocal, you have a drum and bass kind of a performance, right?
Yes.
Drum, bass, guitar. Yeah. So the first thing, I guess this is a question on EQ, which is a music production question. So what you guys could do is, if you have recorded the drums and the bass first, right? Let the drums and the bass be super loud, and you should enjoy that. And then when you bring in the next musician, let's say the vocalist, it's sort of like cooking a dish. You have one plate and you may have 20 food items, and all the food items are tasty, but you're not going to have the same amount of quantities in each of the in your plate. You'll not have equal rice and equal this and equal dal and whatever else. It'll always be a balance which suits the dish's requirement, or what it intends to do for your you know uh, for your taste buds. So when you're mixing music, that's how you approach it. It's one thing will start, then the next thing comes in, and when the vocals come in, you realize the bass of the vocals is not needed, because the bass guitar and the drummer are already providing that for you, right? So maybe another thing to consider, I've heard this question from a lot of people before, so to elaborate a bit more, there's lows and there's low mids. So the lows are the boom, the sub bass frequencies, which you sort of feel before you enter a nightclub or a pub, just when you're outside the door or something. So those frequencies usually don't need to be there in the human voice when the voice sings, unless it's like a voiceover for some National Geographic channel or something like that. If it's music, your bass guitar and your kick drum is going to take over that entire register. So I would say first clear the way for all of those low-end instruments, which could be bass, drums, acoustic guitar, fingerstyle for sure, pianos, left hand, bass, that could add. If you have a cello, definitely. If you have a EDM bass synth, why not? That should add the subs. And find a way for the vocalist to fit in. So then you will boost maybe 400 to 600 hertz, or maybe for more clarity, you can boost about 2 kilohertz, 2 to 4 kilohertz, which is what makes the vocal prominent. So rather than saying the vocal is getting, rather than saying that the vocal is not heard, you should rather figure out what's good about the vocal and make those good things even louder, which anyway the bass guitar and the drums won't have. So as someone says on YouTube, what if you have a husky voice? So a husky voice doesn't mean you're going to sing in the sub bass registers like 60 hertz or 100 hertz. A husky voice could even mean 400 hertz, where the kick drum is not going to invade your space. So it's all a matter of, I guess, EQ and understanding the bandwidth of the human ear, which is between 20 to 20,000 hertz. If you understand the bandwidth, your EQ is sort of like cooking a meal, on your own. So that's generally what a mix engineer will do. The two things I tell people is the mix engineer is the sixth member of a 5-member band. That's how we look at our job. And we feel we don't look at ourselves as engineers. I mean, at least I don't. I feel that I'm a musician. I'm part of your band, So that is the requirement, first of all. And I look at my job as quite a powerful job. Like, I am cooking the meal. You are just the raw ingredients. You're like the pepper and the chicken and everything you are giving me, your guitar and your piano and your drums and your bass are all raw ingredients. But what I am doing is I am the cook, So, I mean, I'm not showing off, but I'm just trying to tell you that mixing is a very deep subject. And whenever we do it with a lot of passion. So you see us using our mouse and typing shortcuts and dragging things, but that means a lot. That's actually like playing a guitar and figuring out a cool chord sequence, and at least to me it feels like that. It doesn't seem very serious. It doesn't feel like I'm doing computer coding, which I studied in engineering. So mixing doesn't seem like that. It seems like I'm playing an instrument, like a keyboard or a trumpet or something. It's like playing an instrument if you look at it. Okay, so hope that answered your question to some level. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aditya, are you there?
Hi, Jason. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. So my question is with respect to the instrument, Jason. So a lot of us are like guitar players, bass players. I'm a bass player myself, piano players and stuff. So how do you on a daily basis approach practice? Like how have you approached practice when it comes to technique, music theory and harmony, transcribing stuff, improvisation? So how have you approached, or what are your tips when it comes to your daily practice? Because scheduling practice has been like sort of like a challenge.
Yeah. So practice, I think, for a beginner is quite easy, if you ask me. A beginner to practice is always easy because you don't have anything to do. But for a person like you or a few more members of this classroom, I mean, it's when you've played music or any skill, after a point you tend to just go with the flow, But I think you just have to tell yourself that you want to keep learning. I think that is very important. So a good way to kind of practice for me when I sit and try to practice is I try to make the session as creative as possible. So if I ever practice, which now I need, come to think of it, I should do a lot more of, the first thing I should do, what I try to do is I just do 20 minutes of creative playing. So creative playing means there's no goal, there's no law. Maybe I heard a song yesterday and I learned this trick, I think maybe about 8 years ago or so. I listened to this artist called Richard Bona, who's a great bass player and singer and so many more things. So I was just listening to his music on my bed, and it was like 2 a.m. or something in the morning. And after hearing his music, I just wanted to just leave the bed and just hit the piano, take the keyboard. I don't know why, because Richard Bona is a bass player and I could play bass. So ideally I would have wanted to play all that on the bass, but I just took to the piano and that inspired me. I may not have written a song. I don't remember if I wrote a song specifically that day, but at least I remember coming to that keyboard at around 2:33 a.m., playing it till the sun rose. And then whatever else would have happened, I would have gone to work or whatever else. So this 20 minutes is very important, because through the law of averages, if you do this 6 days a week, take 1 day rest, and one of those 6 days results in gold, you may make a song that day, right? And generally what I tell people, and myself as well, as much as possible, there are 7 days in a week, and there are about 52 weeks in a year, right? So if you think about it, now you've knocked it off to one song, so that's 52 songs a year you may write if you work this way. And then if you fail, 25% failure, even though you liked one of those 6 days of work, 25% failure out of this is how much? if my math serves me right, it's 13 songs in a year at the worst, right? So and imagine the amount of practice you're going to get in. So don't think too much about practice. Just think about creative playing for maybe 20 minutes, and 1 out of 6 of those days where I would say you're just sort of going crazy and being very creative, what happens is that 20 minutes will just fly. It'll go to 2 hours, 3 hours, or whatever. In your case, maybe even 1 hour is good, So that'll be one style of practice. So now the question is, what do I do on the other days, where I'm not so creative? Because I believe that whenever you sit and play the piano or the guitar or anything, music will flow. Music has to flow because our species, we have a brain capable of so many things. So if we have the skill to play something, and if we play with an open mind, our survival instincts kick in and we will make something happen based on our current skill, of course. Then the other things you need to do is try to list out all the things you need to work on. So things which I do, because I'm a bit more experienced, is I do a lot of YouTube learning. So for the way I do YouTube is, it's horribly non-structured. So I will literally go to YouTube and just type what I'm thinking. So I don't use YouTube at all for structured learning. I may follow a few people who I like. When they release their content, I will observe them. But otherwise, I just use YouTube learning purely non-structured. There's no goal. And with YouTube, I always have a guitar, a bass guitar or a piano. These are the two instruments I play. So whenever I'm watching, I'm trying to play what they are saying. So I like YouTube videos where you get to play with the artist. So that itself is a practice. Even if you did not grasp anything, or if you grasped even 10% of that YouTube video, at least you've gained a solid 30-45 minute workout, So this is one practice environment which I like. The other thing, believe it or not, is TV. Just sit with your mom, dad, or family, sit in the hall, turn on the TV, watch some random show, and you'll believe it or not how time flies. If you just take a drill, anything. I'm doing the spider, as we call it. You'll end up just flying, playing it fast and fast. Then you'll be like, okay, let's do a new scale. You just go on and on and on. While you're listening to maybe Sanjay Manjrekar commentating or, some such, or you just turn off the TV or watch cartoons. Cartoons is a good thing to watch. Cartoons. Now, I would recommend not to watch too much of the news, especially at a time like this. They just repeat the same thing and it's honestly a bit annoying. So I would say cartoons, Animal Planet, those sort of things. And practice, with a distraction, right? Don't practice with that, that hardcore, serious practice vibe. Try to practice in a very chilled out way. And that works for me. Sometimes even if a band comes late for a jam, I use that as a good time to practice. If they come late by half an hour, I'll practice for half an hour, And if you want something more organized, you can develop what I call as a practice matrix, which I share with a lot of my, regular students, wherein you just prepare a kind of a grid of sorts. For piano, we have scales, right? So I have C major, G major, B flat, F, E flat, and whatnot. And down here, you have the exercise. You have all the things you have to do. So maybe I have to practice thirds. I have to do thirds. So I will do thirds on, maybe I like G major. So I'll do right? And then thirds, as we know, can either be closed thirds or you have spread thirds, isn't it? So then that's going to be a lot trickier for guitar and piano players. You'll do and and it goes on and on. Then what can you do? You can do inverted thirds. You don't have to go up, up all the time. You can go down, down. Then you can do up, down, or you can do down, up, right? So when you're developing all these goals for yourself, I would say just look at everything in a binary way. Binary meaning 0 or 1. So you're like, okay, I can go up, I can also go down. Okay, I can play, or I don't have to play. Okay, I'll play close thirds. No, I'll play spread thirds later. You see how binary this is getting? It's either that, yes or no. So I like to think binary when I practice because it allows me to grow in a less stress-free environment. I'm like, see, I did that, but I can also do that. I don't have a million things to do. And yeah, and most importantly, I would say practice is a process, or as some of us want to call it, it's a journey, right? So you don't really need to care about the result while you practice. You just practice for the love of music and the love of your instrument, and you never know what will happen after a few weeks or a few months. It's sort of like going to a gym or doing push-ups. You do push-ups one day and you're not going to know anything, but then as you gradually do it, you start developing the confidence to do that skill, whatever the physical activity or the mental activity is. So it's all about enjoying the process, I guess, to make your practice better. So in conclusion, yeah, first, creative playing. Don't think, just play, just sing, pour your heart out into that guitar or whatever, and then try to develop some chaotic practice environments and some structured practice environments, because a human being on every given day will change, right? You may be very disciplined one day and you will be very chaotic the other day, but if you're chaotic, it doesn't mean you can't play your guitar. It still means you can play. You may play better guitar. You may actually write a song that particular day. So you have to respect the way our mind works. You will be creative one day or crazy one day. You'll be really in the moment, in the zone. And on another day, you just need to weather the storm, so to speak. You're like not getting any ideas. Nothing is coming to you. So what do? Just sit and practice, or stand and practice, whatever you like to do, Another thing to conclude while practicing is to definitely listen to music. That is one good thing which I have been doing as a more experienced musician. What I do is I tend to, whenever I listen to a song with today's busy environments and so on, and also my profession, a lot of our professions as well is music, a lot of you on this group. So whenever we listen to music, we should never listen to it without a book or a pen in our hand. I'm not saying you have to literally write stuff, but you need to listen to music with a lot of discipline, with a lot of dedication, and with a lot of respect. Then, your art form is being moved forward. You're not listening to the music like a guy listens to it in a hotel lobby. You have to listen to it in a much more refined, a much more artistic way. You have to really dive in to get into the maths. Music is more or less maths, isn't it? So you have to really dive in. So this is something I found that a lot of professional musicians don't do. We don't listen, but even when we listen, we should not listen to some Bon Jovi or some random old Bollywood song which we used to keep listening to. You should listen to new things. You should discover more. Probably start with listening to some music from India itself. A lot of guys in India now are writing music. So you should start listening to some of you guys and us in general. We are all Indian musicians. So yeah, in that sense, listen to more music, and that way you also support the system a bit better. Right? Bon Jovi is done. So let's stop listening to It's My Life and all that stuff. It's over pretty much. Yeah.
Hi, Jason. I'm so sorry. There was a power cut. So
No problem. So this has been recorded. You can probably check it out on that record. We'll try and come back to your question maybe later. There are lot more in this queue. So I'll just go ahead with Suraj. I hope that answered your question to some level.
sure,
Suraj.
thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Jason. Am I audible?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, Jason, being a beginner, a musician, after learning for 3 to 6 months, everyone has an eager to bring up their own band.
Yeah.
So my question is, in this case, so what are the basic requirements apart from instrument to have a band? Because when we hear a band, it sounds very good and
Yeah.
everyone loves. And when
Yeah.
we jam in our room or somewhere, it sounds quite different.
Yeah. 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 So, well, so that's a very good question. So what I would suggest is, if your band is very committed as a group and your music has a very strong solid direction, like you've seen a lot of the local bands, some of them who we know, like Swaratma, Parvaz, Lagori, all of these artists, when they probably met for the first time, they didn't know. But then you get a feeling a little bit after jamming for a few months or maybe a year that, yeah, this is the kind of band I want to grow old into. Or actually, that's a far-sighted thing. At least maybe a 10-year goal, or maybe even a 2-year goal with today's fast-moving world. So you should say, yeah, this is our 2-year plan. So once you have a 2-year plan, or some kind of a good long kind of a investment, you can then start thinking about your sound and all that. But I would say, don't invest in anything unless your band is committed. Like, your band has to be into it. I've been part of so many bands where it's just one or two people who are interested and the others fizzle out, either after their college ends or they have personal reasons, they have to go for abroad higher studies and all of that. You can't blame people, right? The mind will change. So you have to see if there's a long-term commitment. What you could do is, if you like technology or if you like hardware in general, this may be a good time to set up a jam room. In your house itself, you could set up a jam room, get some basic equipment like a simple 8-channel mixer, which won't cost you too much, and couple of microphones, and maybe an audio interface if you want to record. Stuff like that you could just get. So now may be a great time also, because most people are pretty much in the house, quarantined and stuff like that. So you might as well pick up that skill now, and then you could apply it with not only one band, you can apply it with so many bands. So for me, that's another reason why I've grown as much as I've grown as a musician. One of the first houses we had as a family was on MG Road, where my dad was the principal. So as it turned out, we are a musical family. My dad and my mom's a musician, as a lot of you would know, and my dad was a very strong music lover. So they supported me to have this jam room in the house. Luckily, it was in the garage, and that didn't annoy them too much with all the heavy metal and growling going on. But that was great for me, because I got to learn music so well from so many people, and I would boast by saying every band in Bangalore jammed in that jam room around 2007 to maybe 2012ish. Almost every band in Bangalore, if you talk about any band who was there around that time, they have all played there. And what did I do? The same thing as what I told you. Back then, we got a 4-channel mixer, which was built into the speaker. An Ahuja speaker or a Stranger, one of those two. Had a basic drum kit, had 2 mics for drums, 1 mic for vocals. The backing vocalist was not allowed a mic. And then later we got 1 mic here and there, because I wanted to sing. And then after that, did a little bit of sound tweaking. We managed to soundproof the garage a little, and believe it or not, it went to a point where the band I was playing in at the time, Allegro Fudge, we literally released an entire album, recorded, mixed everything in that garage where everyone used to jam. So in a way, it grew fairly well, you could say. In hindsight, even when I hear that album, Maximum City, you guys could check it out by Allegro Fudge. I don't think the mix was so bad. I quite like it. Maybe the highs were too much, but it was okay. Even now, but now maybe it's more nostalgia than anything. Maybe the mix actually sucks. But So you get the idea. The whole idea is you can figure out a scalable system when you're talking about new band. First focus on yourself, as an individual. What do you like? And then you have to love technology. For some reason, I love technology as much as I love music. I like all these fancy gears which you buy, how you can stream things online. This whole way of streaming to YouTube also excited me a lot, so I wanted to try it out, and I guess it's working, luckily. So I love technology. So if you're that kind of a guy, you don't have to be very geeky as such, but you should just enjoy technology. You should enjoy what it can do, and yeah, you can go forward from there. So yeah, keep that in mind, I guess. Hope that answered your question. Anirban, you're up next. Hi.
Hey Jason, good evening.
Hi, how's it
I have
going?
a couple of questions. Going good, going good. Sorry for joining a little late. I was in the process of trying to record something new.
Okay.
So,
Go.
yeah, my first question is, as a keyboard player, I also play the Melodica. And it's quite a different
Okay.
instrument compared to a piano or other keyboard sounds. So what other
Right.
kind of instruments can I emulate with a Melodica? That's one question.
Okay.
And the second question is, when I'm working on song ideas, I get
Yeah.
nice loops, which are probably 8 bars or 16 bars long. But
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
how do I move on to make a complete song? Like, in what direction should I think specifically?
Awesome. Thanks. So I'll answer your second question first, because a lot of you, I think,
Alright.
will end up having a lot of songwriting questions. So question 2, I would just give you one tip which has worked for me in the past 4-5 years. I've written a lot more songs and a lot better songs. I actually hear back and I am actually starting to like my own songs now, which has taken a long while. So what I try to tell myself is, we all have this ability to make riffs, to make these small pieces of music. In fact, I do this on my YouTube channel pretty much every day. So I don't consider that to be a very, very tough activity. We can all create music. But then you should not leave your composition until you have also created a B section, and if possible a C section. That means verse, chorus and bridge. So figure out 2 parts which interlink together, and then you'll be happy. I can guarantee you that you'll be a lot more confident with whatever you're doing. Don't start with just mere old riffs. So for example, this is a song I had written on the guitar some time back. So if I go, the verse riff is something like that. Now if I had just played only that riff, obviously it wouldn't have become a song. So you think of something. Maybe you think of an artist like Beatles, who at that particular stage in composition, after doing, they'll probably then go to this chord, F sharp. So just try to come up with 2 chord progressions, or maybe one riff and one simple chord progression. Like the chord progression could be, and then yeah, you get the idea. I'm just trying to divide it. Or maybe something you make could be very choppy and rhythmic, and then something else could be another very different kind of music. So look at riff. Yeah, just make the 2 sections different, or else maybe it just naturally leads. Maybe A section goes to B section somehow, right? So if I give you this this sort of a melody, like na 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 na. Just simple chords. Na 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 na. Just D. Na 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 na. It's like you're just telling a story, you know. Na 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 na. Chorus. Na 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 na. This feels like the chorus. It's like a weird ending at the end. Of course, I'll do that better on a keyboard. Do you get the idea? So, yeah, that's one tip towards making songs. Focus on an A section and B section. Then your melodica question, well, yeah, it's an interesting instrument. It's a new instrument. So, yeah, at this point, for all those of you watching, first of all, thanks for sticking on. We still have a good number of people here. It's good to see all of you guys. We also have a few discounts if any of you are interested, where you can look at purchasing melodicas, studio equipment and all that. And we've been lucky to partner with Amazon for this, so they will ship pan India. So do check in with us, or we will put this in the live chat, so you could hit the link and pick up stuff which you may want, like a mic or a interface, which may be helpful after a class like this. Maybe you have a few thoughts going on. So coming with the melodica, so I'll just again keep this a bit brief, since not all of you are melodica players, I guess. So first of all, if you want to emulate, let's say, a bagpipe. So a melodica is a very new instrument, right? And it's wind. So it's a wind keyboard. So I can do. So before I do bagpipes, maybe I can just do like a simple, like a flute, you know. Let me just move this down. Yeah. So I try to look at what I can't do on the piano. There is no way you can do that on the piano keyboard, right? But I'm sort of holding the same chord, which is in this case D minor. So it's purely my mouth and the techniques you'd use to playing a flute, you know, like. So I'm able to get the same technique from the flute, which I get into this particular instrument, the melodica, right? So you can emulate even a lead instrument, because you have a lot of dynamics on the melodica. So for those of you who play keyboard, you should definitely consider getting one. You can play. Can also hold on the note for a lot longer than the piano, obviously, because it's wind. So you go. So you see that natural vibrato also coming in. So that's very reminiscent of a sax or a horn or a violin, you know, those sort of instruments. Yeah, and if you want, another thing I like to do is maybe emulate a bagpipe player, you know, like you can hold a drone like all these guys do. You can, again, all these things you can't do on a piano. That's what makes this instrument awesome. So you go. Then you need to breathe. That's another problem. Yeah. So this is a melodica in general. So it's a damn good instrument, and I think we have one of these also, which Amazon is selling, a damn good Suzuki or a Honor one. Good discount. Pick it up if any of you are watching. I'll probably do a workshop on the melodica soon. If any of you guys are interested, you could give me a shout out, and I intend to teach how to play this instrument different from the piano. I don't want to teach you like how to play chords and stuff. Then we might as well do piano. But I'll teach you what makes this more and more like a vocalist, how you can play this like a singer, in a band. That's how I look at it. So I've been happy enough now to have a setup where I can put this instrument on my keyboard stand or on a drum cymbal stand, which I steal from a drummer. And while doing so, I can play it with just one hand and have the other hand play piano. So that required a lot of practice. So I put in a good number of hours for that, but it's paid off. I enjoy this whole combo thing now. You do melodica with the right hand and piano with the left hand. It feels like Bob Dylan's harmonica guitar combo for some reason. So at least I feel like that, but then don't play like Bob Dylan, or don't even bother singing, because I can't sing. Okay, so moving forward. So thanks for your two questions. So you can do this melodica thing for a lot of movie theme scores and arrangements. So I would encourage you to do that. It's also a very folk instrument, very Celtic instrument. It's also a very blues instrument. In fact, the first genre I played on the melodica was just old school blues, super old school blues, just standard blues music. So it just replaced the harmonica. You just play with a little guitar overdrive if you can. If you have an FX pedal, the melodica is damn good. And if any of you guys are interested, I'm releasing my 4th album on the 3rd of July. Not the 4th of July. That would have been cool. But then the 3rd of July is a Friday, so that'll be better, I guess. So do check it out, and that has a lot of the melodica in it. That's almost like my lead instrument. Like Joe Satriani is the lead guitarist, so to speak. In my music, the melodica is the lead. And whenever the melodica leaves, you will have normal instruments like the guitar or the violin, flute, or the veena taking over. So you will hear a lot of the melodica, and I've done a lot of effects to it to make it very heavy, very scary, very folkish, very orchestral. I've also explored the orchestral side. So when I started using it, I was like, I can't play violin. I can't afford to get a choir in my room. They won't fit. And some of them are annoying. So what do? I'd rather play all the parts on my own. And this instrument helps. It really helps. So I ended up getting like a huge set of melodicas, and I use that quite often. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I always make fun of singers. Sorry. Okay, great. Thanks for your question. We'll now move to Rishal. Hi.
Hello, Jason. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
I am good. I am Rishal Subedi from Nepal, and I would like to ask you a question. How to improve your training?
Sorry, can you repeat that, please, Rishal?
I am Rishal Subedi from Nepal, and I would like to ask you a question.
Sure, yeah.
How to improve your training?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So, unfortunately, I can't give you a year training lesson in a workshop like this, but we can definitely, or you will get some suggestions hopefully after this answer. The first thing I would say to improve your year training is to first see what you can do before you actually focus on year training techniques as such, because there are a lot of things you can actually gain without thinking that you're training your ear, but you're actually training your ear. It's like a similar question to what someone else asked, how to practice. Aditya had asked, and then Jaskaran had asked the composing question in the beginning, right? So it's the same thing, listen to more music, work with more musicians. And the most important thing which has helped me to develop better ears is don't judge music. Like, stop judging music. No song sucks and no song is great either, right? Nothing is like, it's your field, it's your creative and technical field. So if there's a song flowing by you, passing through your brain, I mean, you have to acknowledge that, or you have to just turn it off. You shouldn't just simply judge it for no reason, say, oh, why do they make useless songs like that, or man, what a great song that is by Pink Floyd. But then you'll only hear that one song, Wish You Were Here or something. You're not going to hear all their other songs, or you'll be Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water forever. Or at the max, you'll be more proficient and you'll say Highway Star and Burn. That's all you're going to end up doing. And then you're not going to say Demon's Eye, Knocking at Your Back Door, or Mitzi Dupree, which are some of their real classics, back in the 70s. So when you're trying to train your ear, I think first start listening to albums by artists. That can really help. Don't stop until the whole album is finished. You hear the whole album. Don't do one song. Because I feel when you listen to an album, the soul of that artist starts entering into you. That artist's discipline, that artist's mind, their emotions, their character, slowly a piece of that comes into you. So I think that is as important as ear training as any book or YouTube video you'll ever watch. Now, coming to a few technical things about ear training, which I'm assuming we also would be interested in knowing. You have the melodic ear, you have the rhythmic ear, and you have the harmonic ear in music, right? And you also have the production ear, or the technology ear, or the audio engineer ear, which I'll not talk about in this answer for now. So if you say melodic ear, you need to first work on your intervals. So if I played you this note, you don't have to bother telling me that it's a G. Agreed? But you now have to be able to sing a note from this G. For example, the third, or a fifth, or an octave, or maybe a minor sixth. You see, now that takes a little bit skill because the minor sixth is a little dissonant. So for a ear, it doesn't come as naturally as maybe the that's easy. We've heard that, it's calm. But so that's a little scary, right? That's a tritone. So once you get your intervals, I think you'll be well on your way. Intervals are the building blocks of music, as we clearly know. And also with ear training, you need to also focus on your harmonic ear. Harmonic ear is where you're able to understand not only what a chord is, like this may be like a minor chord with an additional note somewhere, right? That's so you don't need to spell out the notes of this chord, which I'm playing right now, but at least work on awareness of the notes just by singing. So again, if you don't sing, singing is another very important skill to actually develop ear training, because how do you get the answer out? See, even as a piano player, I don't train my ear with the piano. I train my ear as a singer. So some of us who play instruments are sometimes very shy, to sing out loud and get our thoughts out there, but definitely focus on singing. That's the best way to get the sound out. Then you'll know, it's right or it's wrong. At least that you should be able to decipher. So use some singing, and harmonic ear training, melodic ear training, and rhythmic ear training is something a lot of people forget. That's another thing you need to focus. And rhythmic ear training, or any form of ear training, can also be learnt using the process of transcription, where you hear a piece of music and you just quietly write it down. You write down all the notes, all the symbols which you just heard. And that, trust me, is way more important than playing a guitar. So just have a trend, or have a, maybe Aditya talked about practice with his very good question. So this is another thing you may want to add in your practice regiment. Take a song, take a riff, take a guitar solo, take a intro, outro, whatever you want to take, or take a drum groove and write it down. Write it using either staff notation, or write what you know. Write either something, just tap it out. write it in some crude form, whatever you understand it by, and then proceed towards playing it. And then you should play what you wrote. Don't play what you think is what you should play. Play what you wrote in the paper, and then that will create a great loop, right? That will improve not only your ears, it's going to also improve your theory. Your music theory sense will grow. So another thing with ear training, which a lot of people get wrong, you're not actually training your ear. You're also training your mind. It's more mind training than anything else. So sometimes musicians who play by ear are branded in a weird way by certain other musicians who play music by reading or by vision. So I would say don't listen to such people, because they don't know the way we learn music. Or maybe we like their music, but or we acknowledge every way of learning music rather, but there are some people who would try to put you down and say, hey, that's not the professional way of learning music by your ear. Wherein I'm like, I can learn that entire song by the time it takes you to do a Google search of that song, and find the right tutorial to do. By the time you find the tutorial, I move to the next song. That's how fast your ears can get. It can get exponentially faster. So it's an investment. It is an investment which will yield results in the future. And that's another thing with ear training. Don't listen to people. Like a lot of people say, do theory, read, do this exam or that exam, only then you will be acknowledged. Man, all nonsense. I mean, there's nothing wrong in doing an exam, but the exam doesn't get you to be a great musician. It's more like a validation. Like, yeah, cool, I know this song, or I know 3 songs in one calendar year, which they put me to learn, So ear training is very important. I would say change the word to mind training. That will encompass theory as well as the actual ear. And ear training is more the survival instinct of the musician. You're hearing something and you survive. It's like someone throws you into a pool and you have to swim. So ear training is that kind of an environment, or that's what it feels like for a practicing musician. And that's what I love about it. It's really hostile. So you can grow exponentially. You're not like, oh, I have this comfort of my book. I can read 1 page every day. Tomorrow I'll read chapter 2. Day after I'll do exercise B. It's not like a textbook or something you're doing. Ear training is hostile. You're in the battlefield, and you have to deliver. So that's how I look at it, because the song's going to leave you. And why I say that is, back in the day when I used to learn maybe Elton John songs or ABBA songs, it was all on tapes. So you all know how tapes are. It's scary. You have to, if you miss a part, you have to rewind the tape. You can't go to song 1. You can't like click your mouse and go to a point, right? So if you liked something, if you went to song 4 but had a problem in song 1, the only thing you would do is just finish the whole album and then come back. So inevitably we tend to listen more. So that's how I ended up learning a lot of Elton John songs, because at home we had that tape, we had that cassette tape of Elton John, ABBA. We didn't have the Beatles, strangely enough, which is why I didn't learn Beatles growing up. But there was a lot of, so whatever music we had on tapes, cassette tapes, is what I would play on the cassette player and learn. That was the only way to learn. And then torrents came, and then, YouTube came, and then iPhone and all this iPods and all these things came. But in my formative years, it was more tape. So you have to really hear fast. So the best way I could think of ear training was to hear and quickly write, That's why I have that culture. Even if I'm jamming with you for the first time, I may not play my keyboard for the first 20 minutes. If I have to play 3 songs with you, the first 20 minutes I'll just be writing. It'll only be writing. And then you may end up being a bit surprised after the 20 minutes. Because I'll play all the songs as best as I can. I'll not tell you I have to practice, give me till tomorrow. So I don't like that attitude. I like to always be aggressive, but if I don't know something, I like to write it, because for me, it's wrong to just keep trying something randomly. I want to give you the perfect result if I'm working with you as a musician. So that's why I spend time writing whatever I hear. So that's a skill. That's a very, very important skill to develop. It's called transcription, and I think jazz musicians do that the most among all of us, musicians. They really need to transcribe. So they do all sorts of transcription. Okay, great. Thanks for your question, Rishal. We have a few more. We'll just finish with Kishore's question.
Yeah. Hi, sir. Good evening. Very happy to see you. So I have been producing music from a couple of days, and the thing is, like, I can see, like, when I hear the music from Western, I can see like a very good quality of sound, or it's not just about mixing, even the recording quality. So I just wanted to know, like, free recording tips other than acoustics, maybe like VSTs or might be sound plugins, all this. And also, as you mentioned about perverse, so I keep hearing perverse songs, and I could see like they have used so many borrowed chords, like maybe Dorian scales or Lydian scales and all this. And how do we apply these scales into our songs?
Okay, great. So maybe we'll come to your second question later in the class, if time permits. I'll talk about your recording thing, your recording question. So I think professional audio in today's world is like food in a very chaotic food street, where you get so much of competition, everyone fighting to give you a pani puri or something which you would enjoy. So inevitably the quality of the entire ecosystem rises. So that is what's happened to audio. Every single audio interface is great. Focusrite 2i2, go for it. It's awesome. It's cheap, has great preamps, connects well, plug and play. You can record, just pull it out of your box, plug it in, start recording, start singing or whatever. And this is the same with anything. Focusrite, PreSonus, Motu, Apogee for Mac, whatever you want to buy, you can buy. And audio interfaces will work. However, if you want professional quality recordings, look at your room. Room is very important, especially for things like vocals. So I am using a condenser mic. This means my room has to be fairly soundproof, right? So right now all my doors are closed. You can't really hear, the street noise or cars and stuff like that. So if you don't have this luxury to have a fairly closed room, then I would advise you to buy a dynamic mic, like a Sennheiser live mic or a Shure SM57 or even a Shure SM58. Either of those will serve you well. A great example is this Grammy Award winning artist called Jacob Collier. Almost all his songs, which you see on YouTube, were produced with one SM58 near his Logic computer, because he's so fast with his software that he's literally typing the shortcuts and singing at the same time. Like he's typing, okay, I record, new track, okay, put a marker there, loop that, okay, but he's still singing. He's not looking at the screen. He's so fast, and he does it live on YouTube. You guys should check out one of his Logic sessions. This doesn't mean Logic is great. So it means that all DAWs are now equally awesome. Every DAW, like I said, it's like a food street where everyone's serving pani puri. Ultimately, everyone's fighting to fill your mouth with it, so they will work harder at creating a better dish. And now DAWs, recording softwares, have reached the homes of people. This was not the case in the decade which passed before us. So earlier you had to go to a studio and whatnot. Now SM57, Focusrite 2i2 or something, you don't need speakers, basic pair of headphones, Sennheiser or whatever, Audio-Technica. You can get a software. In fact, I would highly recommend the software called Reaper, which I currently use. I used to be a Pro Tools trainer, Pro Tools instructor and all that. I love Pro Tools, but Reaper is giving me a very different perspective. It's getting me to sing more, getting me to do a lot more creative things, which I couldn't do in Pro Tools, just because it's super fast and like sometimes addictive and chaotic at the same time. So you don't have to buy Reaper. It's free. I shouldn't be saying it's free because on the website it says Reaper is not free, but in functionality it is free for however long you want it for, right? So get it and use a good DAW, headphones, and then get some nice cables, accessories, stands. And what we tend to forget when setting up a home studio is power. So get a good power backup, protect. And I don't know how power works, so trust people who are great electricians. I've been happy to know a few who have really helped me. Man, electricians are your lifesavers. It's not your, software tech support guy or the guy who no, it's the guy who's handling your grounding, who's the guy who's setting up the wiring in your house. So you need to really work with that guy. A lot of us don't respect electrical people, electrical workers as much as we should. Trust me, they are the core of music, because music would not work without power. So you have to really find a good electrician, and that's your guy, so the electrician, and set up clean power in your house and you're good to go. And what I would say with recording and all that, I gave you the example of my band. Just start, release an EP, focus on doing an album, collaborate, and see how it goes. Don't say, at one point in the next 2 months something is going to happen. Trust me, it'll never happen. So you should do whatever you want to do now, like today, after this class. Think about it and actually start. You'll be very surprised that things just move forward. It grows forward like any skill, right? And with any skill comes investments. But the things I have told you so far over the chat, I think are good for a start. Not only good for a start, it's good for what Jacob Collier does on YouTube, which is like 600, 700 tracks. Even movies don't have so many tracks. The whole movie, like the dialogue, the Foley, the sound effects, the music, even all of those put together don't equal a Jacob Collier song. So there are guys who do it with just one mic. So 2020 and forward is a brilliant time for musicians. If we work at our skill, it's a great time, if you ask me. Okay, great. Thanks for your question.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Kiran, hi. Sorry, Kushpinder, I missed you. Yeah, hi.
Hi, Jason. So Jason, my question is that if you already have some rhythm patterns that are stuck in your head and you want to learn new ones which are pretty similar to the first rhythm, so how do you break out of that and learn them?
Yeah, so I have 3 things which help me as a rhythm player. One is rhythmic devices, wherein I divide the beat into 2 parts, 3 parts, or 4 parts and do permutations around them. So for example, if I divide by 3, I could be like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or I could play a melody. But now you get bored of that. You're like, why should I play all the 3? Why can't I do ultimately, I've divided every beat by 3, but I'm choosing to play or not to play, right? So it's just that binary idea again, to play or not to play. That's an important question to ask yourself while practicing. So the second thing which you could consider is to use a few Indian concepts. Indian musicians are very good with rhythm, so you could try to use konakol. You can look at some videos on YouTube, or you could learn from drummers, and also look at the core of rhythm. Like, I would say just listen to Latin music, Afro-Cuban music as much as possible, and just absorb the music. Another good thing to actually get rhythm patterns which stick in your head, which break out of the rhythm patterns which stick in your head, is to, again, like I've been telling everyone so far, I think that's been the main objective of today's class. Just listen to more music, right? Or as I told someone earlier, like, don't listen to the music you are playing. listen to different music. And who knows, maybe you like folk songs, but you listen to a rock song, and maybe the rock song will give you a new way to play your folk song, which is what you can do. That is your skill. So, and finally, listen to music which has a lot of accents. Like, don't listen only to classical music or folk music for rhythm. Sometimes the genre itself could not be rhythmically dense for no fault of the genre. The genre will have a lot more things going on for it. So listen to music which is rhythmically intense. Listen to some progressive rock. Listen to some indie electronic bands here and there which are playing. Electronic music will observe a lot of rhythmic things because they do everything with a computer. So they have the ability to go crazy with their rhythm. And again, and play with people also where rhythm is at the center of their attention, like drummers, tabla players, and you learn from people like that. So always have a drummer perspective when you play, and maybe make a few drummer friends. That'll help. Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to your other question at some point. You have asked, I think, a couple more. So we'll come back to that. Kiran, hi.
Hi, Jason. You can hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. So, well, I really wanted to thank all the fellow participants for asking such good questions. The answers have been very insightful. Okay, so my question was, well, as musicians, do you think we're supposed to, I think we are, but what according to you are these values or fundamentals that we can't compromise with? Just to give you a little context, so let's say if as a visual artist or a designer, when I'm creating something, I know that I'm trying to solve or simplify something. I'm trying to communicate an idea, or say if I'm designing a chair, it has to be comfortable. So being somebody who's just started, say, learning music or exploring music, understanding music, and also at the same time, if we are also an individual, if I'm also trying to create something which which feels right to me or is relatable, and when I expect somebody to listen to it, how do I find that balance where I stay honest to my, say, communication while respecting the norms, if there are?
Okay, it's a very not very good at these rather what do you call them, philosophical questions, but it's an interesting question. I don't know, I may not give a great answer for this, but I will try. So the first thing, I guess, for you as the artist or any artist, like you said, you've come from a visual art background as well, so it's good that we're talking about art in general. So art or music is in general is defined or is for people. Ultimately, you're playing this to entertain people, right? So for me, it is a very simple field. There are a lot more difficult things going on in life, like what doctors do, what they are probably doing right now, or what policemen and women are doing right now. So, I mean, we have to first understand that music is a very simple field, and we are also very lucky to be part of such a field. And if some of us are making money out of it or are paying our bills out of it, we would probably be even more lucky, because otherwise you could be doing something else, So the fact that you enjoy this is great, and the fact it's not a big deal. I mean, being a musician is not such a serious thing, the way I've never looked at it like that ever. I've always looked at other professions like coders, what they do, because they are actually making a difference to the planet. They're actually giving you a product which will actually change lives. So music, ultimately, if you say it is for people, it's supposed to give them entertainment, or more than entertainment, as sometimes it happens, is if the listener is aligned with you for some reason, and you can't force that. You just have to go by probability. There will be some listeners who acknowledge or who are sort of aligned with what you're trying to say when you are making a song, either lyrically, even harmonically. You could tell a harmonic story with just chords. You could tell a rhythmic story. It doesn't have to be only about lyrics. As I have found, I write a lot of instrumental music. So for me, the emotions cannot be sent with words. It has to be just sent with whatever chord and other things I'm trying to play. So the listener, ultimately, you hope that they will be aligned with you. But then if you go and hunt for them, then you may compromise on what you are trying to do yourself. Like if your system is to kind of, if your expression is X or is a certain way, you should never change that. I may sound selfish by saying that, but then how are you going to actually get people to like you? They will like you only if you are true to yourself, right? So whatever music you make should either be personal or it should be very or about someone else who you care about, I guess, or it could be about the world in general. So figure out topics which interest you or which hit you, at a global level or at a personal level or at a, maybe your friend is going through that particular topic, I guess. So you have to think about that, and when it comes from you in a fairly, as you said earlier, in a fairly honest way, people are, some guy on earth would have also gone through the same thing, right? The laws of probability are there. So you will thus get fans, and then people will hear you. So I've seen this with a lot of bands, and there are some bands I know who really care about the commercial side. How do we get more streams? How do we get more views? But then there are some bands who just don't care. And the bands who don't care know that, hey, listen, this is going to take me like 5-6 years. I'm going to struggle for a bit. But whoever is my fan, when Corona ends, the guys who are playing Bollywood covers are going to play for not too many people. But the guys who have built their own fans, let's say even now, from the Corona time till maybe mid or end next year, if we are lucky, when we get to play shows again in India. So this is the time to actually build these loyal fans, because that's all you can do. So I would say now is a time where you should actually focus on original material, get an album out, figure out what is your way of writing music, and your way of writing music will evolve. It will change because you are also changing as a person, right? So when I wrote a song, When the Mice Play, which was part of my third album, I think, third album, I was not a youngster as such. I had probably just maybe I was in my late 20s or something when I wrote that song. So I was just thinking about, personally to me, what will happen to me when I grow old, and what will happen. It is just a kind of imagining the future kind of a song. So I was just imagining who will be around me, which is why I call the song When the Mice Play, where the only ones around you, if things go wrong or whatever, will just be these mice playing. So I was just imagining that, and just wrote that song, and it's there, and you'll feel it. You'll feel the entire story which is going on, hopefully. Or if you hear it, I can tell you that verse means this thought, But the music did not come out like that. Because I wanted that story. I made the song, and then it hit me. Like, this is quite personal. And whenever a song is more personal, you will keep playing it. You will keep trying to compose more and more and more and more. You will not stop till the song is over. And another thing about a song which you write is hear it the next morning. Hear the song the next morning, and then if you still like it, man, that's the song. Like, never evaluate your art. I am sure you'll agree this with all art forms. Never evaluate art in the process of making art. Should always evaluate art when it's done and dusted. There will always be nonsense. There'll always be junk which you make. But again, I go by the law of probability. Like I told someone, you keep trying, you'll get 1 out of 6 in a week. It amounts to bare minimum 1 album a year. When you die, you would have made more songs than the Beatles, theoretically, right? If you think about it, you will, because that's the math. The maths can't lie. So that's another thing. When you make songs, don't judge yourself. Don't overjudge yourself. Like, even me, being a very theoretically kind of agile musician, I'm trying to keep talking theory and stuff. Ultimately, I go by that principle, because no amount of theory and technical skills will translate into you liking a song which you made. It depends on you listening to it with a very open mind, ideally the next morning. So it's the same thing with all professions with music. Even if you take the mixing field, audio engineering, I always look at mixing like that. If I mixed it, I'm not going to hear that mix. I will sleep, wake up in the morning, do my own thing, hear the song again. And it may sound great. If it sounds great, it's a great feeling. Trust me. So wait for the next day and then hear it. These are some things which have worked for me, and hopefully that will help you send music better to the audience. Currently, focus on yourself. If you haven't written too many songs, always start with you and yourself, and then hope that there are guys around who'll align with your principles, or forget about principles. They just like the song. Remember what I said at the beginning. Music is a very simple kind of subject. So there will be guys who like it, and when someone likes you, they kind of stick with you. These fans are like that. So if you can find a fan, that fan will keep sticking with you. I've had fans for like years, and I don't know how this is happening. How these guys uh, stick on or keep listening. So you feel like you have to keep doing stuff. So that's another way of looking at it. You make music for yourself, but then when you get more and more fans to like you, then you start making music as a family, like it's you and them, I guess, right? So that's a great feeling, and that's what keeps a lot of us in the game, so to speak, in the game of making music. Ultimately, to get you to survive as an artist, you need people to hear you. Doesn't have to be a million people, just has to be enough and more people who acknowledge what you do. So yeah, cool. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay, Jason, are you there? Hi. I think we have 4 more questions. So yeah, go for it.
Hey Jason, well, I just had a small question.
Yeah.
I just want to know, why do they do a scale change in a composition, and how do you do it?
Why do they do, or how do they do?
Yeah, it's how do they do a scale change in a composition?
Okay, awesome. So nice. So we have a technical question there. Good question. So I mean, we could spend a few classes on that question. It's an excellent question, but I'll try to give you one technique to scale to change the scale. It's basically using fifths. Okay, so let's take a simple fifth interval. Maybe A. What is A's fifth? E, right? A's fifth is E. So this E will always tend to want to go to A for some reason. Okay, these are the laws of nature. These laws were invented even before humans. Okay, so the fifth, so that will be so that is a very important way to connect two notes. So then if you extend this to 2 chords, you can say an E7th would want to resolve to an A major chord or else an A minor chord. And let's say that your original song scale was on G major. G major, as we know, has 1 sharp, namely what? F sharp, right? Now your job is you want to go from G major to A major. So you could have a very cliched chord progression, maybe G, D, A minor and C. So if I play this on the keyboard, these are all G major chords, right? See, I've actually taken it to A major. So what I ended up doing here was somewhere at the end of the progression, like let me play an E7th, which serves as a bridge to take me to the A major scale. So you can learn these connections very, very well by everyone's favorite music thing, which is called as the circle of fifths. So if you learn this ordering, you can actually transpose or go between scale to scale and work with. But then you'll need like a Mariah Carey kind of singer. You'll need a singer who wants to keep going higher and higher and higher. So yeah, you also need a good singer. Otherwise, you'll be killing your singer by doing all this fancy stuff. So yeah, you learn the circle of fifths, and I do have a few videos on YouTube catering to the circle of fifths. So do check that out. And at some point, yeah, we can do a workshop on just scale changing of many guys who do it differently. Like Elton John does it within the two sections of his song, right? Whitney Houston will do it just to elevate the song in some instances. There are some bands like Nirvana who do it all over the song. Like you don't even they probably don't know that they are changing the scale, but it happens magically. So yeah, changing a scale is a very important force. That's what will make your music also different. Right, guys, so we have time for 3 more questions. We'll go with Samarth's question. Hi.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is something of a paradox that I've observed over the last few years. So I started listening to Indian independent music a couple of years ago, and I've found some really, really good artists who make Western music. Their music is produced like to the highest quality, and everything is good about it. There's nothing wrong. But the audiences that they play to are extremely small in comparison to someone like a Justin Bieber or Ed Sheeran or whoever is one of the big pop stars from the US, right? And I'm talking about Indian audiences. For example, when Justin Bieber came to India, there was, I think, 60,000-70,000 people going to watch the concert. But when an artist from India who makes music that is just as good, if not better, gets maybe like 100-150 people with a lot of effort. So the thing is, there is a market in India for sure for Western music, right? It shows people are paying lakhs of rupees to go, but they're not willing to spend the time or the money or make any effort towards the Indian indie artists. Why do you think?
I'll only be, it'll only be my perspective, and having played music for a while now, I guess it'll be from that perspective. So in the early years of me playing music, I obviously was thinking that, and now in the current age, again I'm thinking that. So we all will keep thinking about, why are we playing to 100 while Amit Trivedi or all these other people are playing through to thousands or have millions of views. So one is, I think, logic and the way the music business is sort of structured, but the other is maybe, it's just an ecosystem which is not the best for independent music, in the sense, when I first watched Deep Purple with my brother and dad, I think in 1999 or 2000, the crowd throughout the concert, believe it or not, was just saying 4 words: smoke on the water. They didn't know why they were there. They had no clue. And it was packed. There were thousands of people filling. We couldn't see. We were right at the back. And when we went as a family, we were like, all these losers suck. At least we know Highway Star, Burn, and Child in Time. So we knew 4 songs more than everyone around us. So we felt really happy. And having said that, are we true fans, or were any of those guys true fans of Deep Purple to begin with? Or any of these famous Western artists who come to Bangalore or come to Bombay or play. So fan following, when a person likes someone or truly loves someone, I don't think this is the true love for the fan, going and watching. It's more like a cult created. Like Deep Purple is playing, I will be considered cool if I watch a Deep Purple concert as an engineering student or as an IT professional. This carries on. This goes on to people in their 40s, So it'll go on and on. Everyone wants to please some community by watching and say, hey, I watched this sophisticated German choir which performed in some. Even that is, that is a problem we are facing. Because why can't you watch an Indian choir? And all that. So I don't know what to exactly pinpoint, and I don't want to generalize any Indian as such to, with their opinions and whatever, but it's a very fast-paced world. So what is happening now, for an average Indian, something visual will always hit them more, right? So if you consider one or two indie artists who have that almost Bollywood level hook. You can say maybe Local Train, Pratik Kuhad, I guess, and maybe a few other bands. But what do they all have in common? I guess they all have these very Western-like YouTube videos which focus on some story going on between two people, and then something builds up. Then you feel very personally attached to it because of that visual, and a lot of investment goes on into that production. These videos are in lakhs, like you have to spend a lot of money, so you need to have a lot of savings in order to do that, which a lot of us independent artists clearly don't. Either we have a day job or we do something else like a creative field like writing or painting or whatever, so we don't actually have the money to sustain this dream of ours. But there are some artists who really get the marketing right, and they really believe in the fact that may not be the song will attract their fans, maybe the video. So a lot of these Western composers or Western artists seem to do this this video thing very well, isn't it? They do a very good job. In fact, every song which is viral or popular, you'd probably agree that the music video is there to support it, right? Even if you take an independent band like, let's say, a Snarky Puppy, they also have some fancy. You've seen their video, right, on YouTube, where, man, how do you do a show like that? You have 40-50 people cheering. They all have headphones. They're all being played the sound. So imagine the tech which is going on, some crazy tech, and imagine the skill to pull off songs at that technicality to actually be so good that you do it live and then sell it on iTunes. That is the skill. So I'm not saying that we are not skilled, but I'm saying we may not be putting in as much vision into the process. Like the vision which maybe a Snarky Puppy had was, they were seeing that 2 years in advance. They were like, we are going to do that for 2 years. And this is what will happen in 2 years. This is exactly what's going to happen, and we are going to go viral. That's it. Case closed. And well, so that is one argument. The other argument from a more modern me, having played in this whole Bollywood age, where you're forced to play all these songs, Hamma Hamma, and all this other random stuff, which, I mean, when you're playing it, I don't know, you don't feel anything. I don't feel a single emotion. But maybe I've played it for too long. Maybe I'm just generalizing it. I don't know. But I don't like such songs, right? I'd better say I just like playing my own songs. After a while, you just like playing your own music. So if you take Bollywood and you see what it's done to India as a whole, you have less composers. You have composers which you can count like this, going to like millions, right? So how does that happen? It's very clear. There is a movie which is helping this marketing. It is not, for all we know, it may not be the song. For all we know, your song would be as good in quality as that song, right? So I'm not generalizing here. I'm just looking at this logically. It's a good question and an important question. So maybe our songs are as good as those songs, but maybe, those songs are played in the cinema theaters like every day. Like it rolls and then thousands of people flock in. It's just a viral kind of a thing. Like I have to watch that movie. There's no option. We have to just watch that particular film and blah blah blah. So the song enters into us. Then what do you do after the movie is over? You need to have some nostalgia. So you go to YouTube, watch the same music video. What else will you watch? Like, you're not being told to watch anything else, or rather you're not being told to hear anything. You're just being told to watch this movie, right? How many of us have actually watched the Black Panther movie and actually gone back home and listened to the album of the music score, the soundtrack? Maybe some of you go, I see Puneet raising his hand. Correct. So I ironically heard the Black Panther album before watching Black Panther while walking to the movie theater to watch it. So that made the movie all that more epic and all that more exciting. Even though I don't think it's such a great movie, but still, by hearing the music, the movie became epic. It was madness. That the percussion which the guy composed for Black Panther was incredible. So that's the kind of thing. I mean, how many of us will do that for a movie soundtrack or for just the music? Like music first, and even if there's no visuals, no problem. I'm fine with just hearing, because music, I acknowledge, is for this, not for that. So that's the problem, and they've created a pyramid model not only for the consumer or for the listener, but also for the musician. Why I say pyramid model is only the guys at the top are the ones allowed to make this music. Only they are going to make the music, and if you want to be part of that, you have to go there. In other words, you have to become them. You have to be one of their assistants or whatever else, which is not a bad thing, to be honest. But then you are not trying to deliver your own material. Right? So I would say believe in your efforts or believe in your work, and maybe also have a plan B, like a lot of us musicians will do. We will always have a plan B, and not only a plan B, you could balance the two plans. Like what I do is, when I'm playing my own music, which is part of the Jason Zac band, or maybe earlier with Allegro Fudge, we knew pretty much that we are going to play and we'll get more people in Chennai. For some reason, we had a lot of fans there. So in Chennai, we would get as many people as any artist would, so that was fun. So we were fine with that. We acknowledged that we will play pubs, a few festivals, but we need to find other ways of survival, right? So that is very important for an indie artist, because not all of you are going to become like a Pratik Kuhad or a local train, but don't care about them. Like, just care about yourself. Like Kiran asked a question earlier. If you are honest to yourself, and if you respect your work, and if you believe in your work, that is more than enough. But don't just be lost in that. Try to have a backup. I'm sure a lot of you have other skills. Bring that into the play, right? So things which music work which gives you money will pretty much be the stuff which, well, generally you're not going to enjoy that much. But the stuff which doesn't give you anything, you may like that a lot. You may. I'm not. I wouldn't want to generalize this, but it's generally this with most fields, right? So look at music as a passion, and maybe learn from a few of the Western artists, in the sense that, hey, we need to spend a little if we are going to gain a lot. So that's my problem with indie artists. Indie artists, in myself included, we don't spend. We just release music and we hope that people will listen to us. But if you spend, and if you look at your album as a product, like an iPhone or anything, how are you going to sell this phone? Where will you put it up? Who will be your distributor, right? Who will produce a video for you? How do you get more traction? How do you get more streams? Blah, blah, blah. So you need to think of your music not only as a song which you perform, but you should think of it as a product which people can keep buying, like an iPhone. Like an iPhone can be bought by you, her, or everyone. Anyone can buy that product, because it's a product. It can be rebought, reused, resurfaced, upgraded, and so on. Version 2, version 3, point, whatever. So that's how you have to think about indie music in general. Not that I'm the world's best practitioner of it. I myself make a lot of mistakes. So, but I mean, we learn from some of the mistakes we make. but ultimately don't stop releasing music, and don't, if you're good at that skill, if you can release music and compose music, just make it, because that's what you can do. That is what you are sort of lucky and privileged to be able to do in the first place. So do that, acknowledge that, and then let the results follow. The results will follow if the process is maintained. Keep releasing stuff and keep talking to clever friends. Like I am happy to have a few such friends who kind of tell me, hey, your song is good, but then you're promoting it horribly, or why are you not releasing that, why, all these things which keep coming up, so you should make some good music minded friends. There are some communities also now happening with this whole corona quarantine time. There are some communities which are being formed in India locally, so try to be part of that, see what happens. And don't look at live streaming concerts as a huge serious future. Maybe what you could do to make some money is tie up with a few corporates. Maybe a few corporate companies will pay you good money to just play and entertain their staff in a live concert. There you play whatever they ask you to play. Just learn some crappy songs and play it. No problem. I mean, because that's fueling you to maybe do a music video. Maybe you can hire an animator, or maybe you can hire a dancer. Maybe you could hire a visual artist or anything to maybe help you with a music video using the money you made from playing Hama Hama or some such song, or a assortment of such songs, right? So try to get booked maybe in one or two corporate places. Call a few companies, speak to the HR, send them an email, send them a demo of you playing some cheesy stuff, and get a couple of gigs. Try, if you want to do music full time, try to figure out a way to make some money as well. It's very important, because you will feel a bit disheartened when you don't make any money, especially for those of you who are doing it full time, who want it to be your bread and butter. I want you to make money doing all this, right? So it's not only about passion and discipline and hard work and all that. It's also about making some money. So be a bit clever, be a bit tactical, and do both. But don't forget about your end goal. So if you see 2 years from now, you want to play at, let's say, a big festival like NH7 Weekender or something like that. That is your ultimate objective. Whatever you do is an investment towards that ultimate objective. Yes, you will lose some time learning some crappy songs. So what? Your ultimate objective is to do that show on that stage. And then that achievement is going to be, really insurmountable. It's going to be quite a great feeling. Okay, so hope that answers your question in some ways. Again, I'm not very great with music business, but these are some things which we are also trying to do. Gang up. Some musicians could gang up together and discuss this problem. That could also help. And I think if you work together with other people, other like-minded people, you will get more and more ideas about pushing yourself forward. Ultimately, music is a very community-driven field. So don't think that it's just you against the world. Like, it should be us against no one. It should just be us doing our thing and happy doing our thing. Just get a good ecosystem and meet a lot of like-minded people if you can, and keep chatting up with people over a Zoom call or a chat or whatever you want. Okay, awesome. So we have time for 2 more questions. Puneet, hi.
Hey, what's up, Jason? How are you?
Good. That's an interesting background.
Yeah. First of all, your melody, that groove that you made, that just is still stuck in my head. The groove that you posted on Instagram. I mean, I can't get it over with.
Thanks.
Percussion one. Yeah. My question is regarding the monotony, and I've been listening to a lot of ragas and a lot of classical Western music, and they seem to connect to emotions every time you listen on a different level. Like you listen to Dark Side of the Moon, and every time you hear when you are in a different emotion, they have something in their arrangement or in their composition that's very unique. And whenever I hear ragas like morning ragas or evening ragas, they have a different emotion according to depending on your mood. and how do you tend to create on that level as an artist?
Okay. So your question is it specifically Indian music related or general?
No, general.
Because you use the word ragas, morning, evening. That
No, even Western classical. I heard Beethoven, Bach, or you take a lot of the Western classical artists.
Okay.
And I heard the dirge music and very very different sort of feelings. And how do you tend to create on that?
Sure. So I hope I'm getting towards your question, but what I will say is this: if you look at music a bit more historically, like if we go a little bit back in time, maybe about 100 years, when people made blues music, for example, it's the culture of the music. It's the culture of the people. It's a situation in which they were going through, as maybe people doing unwarranted slave work. That was a bad period there for the people who are taken as slaves. So the music sort of comes out because of certain emotions, like really strong, thick emotions. Now we people are sitting at home, probably with a fan, or we able to have internet, attending a call like this. So we have probably a lot more privilege. Those guys who are artists, who are busy, in coal mines and factories and doing all this stuff. So think about history. History is a very powerful thing, especially the music you listen to. If you listen to Bach's music, he was a contracted musician in a church. So his job was to make new songs in a churned out weekly manner. Like my job is to make 5 new songs for every Sunday church service. Now what do we do in a Sunday church service? We just play existing music. We don't really create original music. But there you had one guy who was making 5 songs a week, which is why he ended up composing so many songs of different moods and different emotions. So sometimes the historical evidence points to the fact that when an artist is pushed to write, when an artist is pushed to really be creative, like for example, maybe some of you who are artists, maybe you're not a musician, you're just a normal artist, you're a writer or a painter, or you do a lot of visual art, as Kiran was saying, she does that. So I mean, let's say I give you a job right now, and you're getting, you think it's an okay job, but then you're getting paid well, you're getting paid fairly well. You're like, yeah, it's not something I would do if it was me. But then somehow that sort of gets you out of your comfort zone, pulls you out of the bed, so to speak, and you work your butt off, so to speak, to finish that deadline, to finish it within the next 5 days or something, So I found that in my environment, I've done a lot of ad work with a few people. Of course, it helps pay the bills, but doing ad work is very interesting because the client wants the song yesterday. Like it's not even today or tomorrow. They want it yesterday. That's how they make you behave. It's like really, really stressful. But I kind of grew to enjoying that. I kind of enjoy working with people like that, who are like aggressive and they force you, like, give me this, give me that. That's a style of working, in my opinion. So that is what Bach went through for his whole life. And that's these are the people who you are listening to. So maybe you want to go back to some of the stories faced by these artists. Listen to what Lady Gaga went through in order to become Lady Gaga. How many theatre, Broadway shows she had to audition for, and how many rejections. Look at Dave Matthews Band. They've averaged 300 concerts. I kid you not. 300 concerts over about 5-6 year period before they became whoever they are, Crazy amount of performing, crazy amount of concerts. If you remember this banjo player, Bela Fleck, from the band Bela Fleck and the Flecktones, who I listen to a lot. Man, the volume of music he's made is insane. Like, he's traveled the world, he's collaborated with so many people, and that is what's made him a Grammy Award winning musician. So always study the history, and the history of these artists and their journey can inspire you. Either you are going through something like them, or you're just inspired by their hard work, so to speak. So I know a lot of local indie bands as well who I have produced. I don't want to mention too many names, but I've seen, the good bands and the not so fancy bands, the good bands seem to really have a vibe about them, and they have a character. They have a unique character. And what makes all musicians pretty much survive very well, or at least for their mental side, like to feel mentally strong about what you do, I think if you just focus on respecting your art form, that would be the most important thing. So that is what I try to tell myself. Even if you have to jam with someone, don't crack jokes, don't laugh, don't do all this chilled out humor and do all that, over a Zoom call or whatever else. When you're playing music, you have to respect it. So if you respect the time given to you to play music or art or whatever, ultimately you can go forward. So I would say to learn that skill, go a bit back in time and do some Wikipedia searches of some famous artists. Look at the Beatles. They've played for like 10 years in a bar. In where? Germany, I think. I'm not too sure. My history is not so good. They played like songs. Then imagine you play one song, fine, or 1 gig, fine. You play hundreds of gigs. Then you're like, man, let's not do these cheesy songs anymore. We hate this. Let's start writing songs. For all you know, that's why they wrote songs, because they played in a bar for years and years and years. So the beauty of 2020 is it's not going to take you 10 years to do that. Probably the 10 years will come down. It crunches down to maybe 1 year or 2 years. So that's the positive side of being part of 2020. We are not going through so much of horrific struggles, all of us, luckily the people in this classroom. So we have that privilege. So the best we can do is learn from history, see what history teaches us, and that will make us better people. It will make us a lot stronger as individuals, I guess. And then that can drive you towards greater things, right? So I hope that answers your question. Great. Naveen, last question. I hope you're awake.
Yes.
Okay.
I had my dinner also in the meanwhile.
Awesome.
Okay, the question is how to find the rhythm pattern quickly, because whenever I listen to a song, if I want to do a cover or if I compose a new song, I struggle to put it on Logic Pro. Like, that's the first thing that I do. I don't know if it is the right way. I try to check the drum pattern. So it's very difficult to find the pattern quickly.
Sorry. So, what do you mean by rhythm pattern?
If it is like 3x4 or 4x4.
Okay, fair enough. So, this is what you can call the pulse of music. So, when you're hearing the song, like I told Abhiram, who asked a question earlier, I told him, like, move your head, do all these organic, natural things with the song. If you want to get the time signature of a song, I would say again start with the pulse, but more than the pulse, figure out whether the beat is getting divided or multiplied. Divided is the better thing. So if you take any song, okay, I'm going to end with a Bollywood song for some reason. That one.
Okay.
So if you take this song, this is the pulse, right?
Yeah.
So this is how the head moves, but try to figure out what else is going on. Like, so I'm actually imagining that kind of a. So I'm actually imagining all the available beats. Na 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 na. Na, 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 na. So I'm imagining everything. So it's actually not only 4 beats per bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. The beat itself is getting divided into 4 parts. Takadina, takadimi, takadimi, takadimi. 1 EN. So if you can acknowledge this, I think this will be even more important than the time signature. So you go. right? So keep that. That's one thing to try out. And the other thing you can try out is see which time pattern or rhythm pattern works for you. Like if I do. So actually now I'm feeling time not as tongue, 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 tongue. I'm going. Na 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 na, or maybe that's like a bass line. So if I have to feel time differently, maybe I can even feel time without feeling it like. Maybe I want to take a subset of this. Go maybe. Dig it, to 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 dig it. So in my mind I'm imagining dig it, to dig it, but on the piano I'm playing the other one which I showed you. Need to practice this a bit more, but I just pulled this song out, but you get what's happening.
Yeah.
So any song you take, you need to have a holistic study of the rhythm. So first figure out, as I told Abhiram in an earlier question, you need to first move your head. Then after that, figure out the time feel. Whether the beat is divided by 4, whether it's divided by 3 or by 2, or is it swinging like a blues song. If it had been swung, it gives you that sort of a feel, which perhaps could have been chosen for this sort of a song. Could have a tabla or a dholak playing. Could have worked, I guess. I don't know why. I would have preferred that version, I guess. But the whole idea here is to be aware of time, to know that, okay, time can be swung, time can be divided, and then when you do divide, you have more options. And then you start listening to the music. I would always, like what you said was very good at the beginning of the question. You said you listen to the drummer. That's a word of advice I would give anyone. When you're listening to a song, try to listen to the song for not your instrument. Listen to some other instrument, and then finally you come back to your instrument. Whenever you've run out of, your ear cannot hear anything more, right? So that itself is a great way to listen to music, right? So the final thing, the final conundrum which I'll put forth to you and everyone in the room is also, a song doesn't have to be 4x4. You can feel it as 3x4. Or you can feel it in any way. These are what we call as polyrhythms. They are time signatures over. So that's why with a pulse, it's a little bit more deeper. It's about how you feel the time. So maybe go with your head movement first and then learn all the pulses. You should learn triplets. You should learn dotted pulses. Learn how to swing stuff. And I guess that's it. And then learn some permutations. And then transcribe what these people are doing. Transcribe what your artists are, whatever songs you're trying to learn. And more importantly, with anything you do, when you're trying to put it into Logic Pro or whichever software application, try to do this to be a part of the song. Like always do it to put your own stamp or your own authority on the music. You should learn from the cover. Whether you're doing a Bollywood song or a pop song, whatever song you do, try to learn from it. Learn from the experience. Learn from the process. So not only with rhythm, with harmony, change the melody a bit and make it your own. There are thousands of covers of the same song you'll hear. So what makes you stand out could actually be this. You could put it into Logic Pro, figure out what appeals to you. How do you change this song? First, look at making a super popular song different. Why would you not want to do that, right? Because you're doing a cover. Anyway, you're doing someone else's song. So start different. Like we used to do that actually with Allegro Fudge when we started doing YouTube covers. So inevitably, if you go to any of our covers, we've done one with we've done Cemetery Gates by Pantera. We've done Janie's Got a Gun by Aerosmith long ago. So we did it in a very different way, in very like we did Cemetery Gates in a very Disney comical way. And I'm saying all this because of all the hate we got through YouTube, doing all this, because the coolest comments were actually the hate comments, like the guys who said something negative, but honestly it was fun to read that rather than someone say, wow man, this is awesome, this is superb. I'd rather say this sounded like something out of a Disney caricature. What on earth have you done? Why have you ruined Pantera? That's fun to read. So you shouldn't take all these things to heart. So look at being different, and that's actually what got us gigs. If you think about it, wherever we went, so a lot of people eventually liked our original music, but we started off by playing these weird versions of covers, which we knew 50% have to hate. And the 50% who like us would come for our next show, no matter what, because they'll be stronger fans, right, than all 100% liking us, just because we did justice to a Michael Jackson song. That was not the intention, right? So that was a good exercise, I think, for me personally, over like 3 or 4 years of working with them. So check out some of our covers. You can probably get inspired a bit. So break it down, spice it up. If it's an electronic song, make it acoustic. If it's an acoustic song, make it something else, jazzy, electronic, something. And as you mentioned, Logic Pro or any other DAW, man, these things can really inspire you. I'm sure it already is inspiring you. So use it to the fullest. And another tip I would have, if you're looking at a DAW perspective, don't use loops. Try to create everything. Even if you don't have fancy virtual instruments, you have your body. You can do or so create, or just tap some furniture around you, right? So use your body to create things inside Logic, and then who knows, you may actually enjoy that recording itself. If you don't, you can always convert that into a drum sample or something else. So this is another thing you learn from a lot of the modern day composers out there who are on YouTube and stuff. Right, guys? So thanks for all your questions, and thanks for all the people who are still hanging around on YouTube watching us. And we will see you guys in episode 3. And I hope all of you guys can join us as well. Maybe if not now, maybe sometime else in the future. We'll be doing this stuff as often as we can. The whole plan is to do one episode every fortnight. So those of you watching as well, or who are part of it, do spread the word. Get some musician friends on board. And this is a great, hopefully this becomes a nice place for all of us to share and learn at the same time, as clearly it has helped me as well grow with your questions. So thanks again for all of you being part of the classroom and sticking around for so long, and I will catch you all very soon. Until then, have a lot of fun, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and don't go out too often.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay.
Thank you.
See you. Bye.
Bye, Jason.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Have a lovely evening.
Bye.
Thank you, Jason. It was a great show.
Thank you.
A lot of energy. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Jason. Good night.
Hey, good night. Take care. Bye.